Right now, though, on the phone, we have got Detective Greg Kading, author of the book Murder Rap. Greg, good morning, sir.
Morning, Big J. How you doing?
I am pretty good. Is it still detective? Is it like President, where once you're a detective, you're always a detective?
You can just call me Greg.
All right. Well, we've got Greg then. Greg, tell us a little bit about your background. You were an LAPD detective for years?
Yeah, I spent over 20 years there, 22 to be exact. I started in 1988 and became a gang detective, and then went through the motions, became a narcotic investigator, and then ultimately a homicide investigator, and that's how I got involved in these cases.
So the homicide, that's like you kind of climb the ladder, and homicide's like the pinnacle of detective work?
Yeah, that's the way it's perceived.
Yeah, cool. Well, I mean, yeah, it would make sense, too. It's probably a little more serious, more on the line there. So did you work hands-on in both the Tupac and the Biggie cases?
I did for 3 years.
Were they together? Was it like the same investigation, or did you just happen to get on both of those?
No, I was only assigned initially to the Biggie Smalls murder investigation because that actually took place in Los Angeles. But in the effort of trying to solve that, we stumbled upon the Tupac case and found out that some of the investigative background in that case took place in L.A., and so that we kind of inherited it.
What is it different for? I mean, I'm sure most people, that are on the force or something would try to say, that there's no difference investigating a celebrity murder as there is, another murder. But is it different for you as a detective, when there's celebrities involved and, household names? I mean, does it make you work harder? Does it make you more interested? I mean, does it change the investigation in any way?
Yeah, it becomes more complicated. Politics start to enter the realm, and it does complicate things considerably.
And what first of all, with the Biggie case, what do you think that the news that's out there, I mean, all the information that we have, is all there is to know? I mean, are you, in your book, Murder Rap, do you say who did it or who you think did it, or what's the end verdict on that?
Yeah, I do say who did it. We know that it was solicited by Suge Knight, and one of his gang affiliates or associates had actually been the trigger man. But what the public misperception is that there was a LAPD officers involved, and that's where another area that we're having to overcome that misperception in order to present the actual case. Do
you think that the reason there's the perception that the LAPD had something to do with it was the fact that it took so long to solve? I mean, it seemed like such a complicated investigation with, a crime that was out in the open like that, and you guys couldn't really solve it. I mean, do you think that's why people might assume you're involved?
That's one of the contributing factors. Also at the time was this big Rampart scandal in Los Angeles, and there was some circumstantial evidence to indicate that maybe these cops involved in the Rampart investigation were involved in the murder of Biggie. But we've since refuted that and have been able to provide the real story behind the murder.
What's Biggie's family? I mean, do you speak to Biggie's family? His mom? We've had his mother on the show before. Were you in contact with them during the investigation?
I've maintained contact with Valletta, and as a matter of fact, I spoke with her yesterday, and she's a big supporter, and that's really my motivating factor in all this thing, is to try to bring her some justice and some closure.
And why was anybody prosecuted for Biggie's murder?
Not yet.
And why do you think they will be? Why would they not be? Because there's no statute of limitations on murder, right?
Correct, and that's what we're pushing forward. It's a very complicated case because of all of the confusion and the negligence that's occurred in the investigation, but we're certainly putting our best foot forward to try to get criminal indictments.
Okay, that would be good. And so, the guy's still around, though? The Suge Knight associate is still, you guys know who he is, and you know that he's still alive and around?
Yeah, he's alive and kicking, but just barely.
Do people within the gang world, there's none of Biggie's associates that would find out who this guy was and try to take care of him himself?
Well, there's always that possibility. You just don't know. To be honest with you, I'm surprised he's still around, considering all the things he's been involved with over the years.
Yeah, I would imagine. But and what's the Tupac involvement here? What do you know about the Tupac case?
Well, the Tupac case is really what it appeared to be. There's an individual that Pac got involved into an altercation with just before his shooting. It's a videotaped confrontation that happened at the MGM. That same individual is the one who returned and killed Tupac shortly thereafter.
So from the evidence that you've seen and the investigation that you were involved in, you can say without a doubt that Tupac was murdered and there's no crazy scandal or anything. He's not still alive. It was just a straight-up confrontation that ended with somebody killing him.
Absolutely. He's dead and has been for 15 years.
What were some other what were some other big cases you guys worked on? I mean, in the hip-hop game, any other hip-hop people that you worked cases with? Any Diddy news, anything like that?
Well, surprisingly, Diddy's implicated in the murder of Tupac. The investigation revealed that Orlando Anderson, he's the one that actually shoots Tupac, his uncle was in the car and provided the gun. His uncle is the confessor and the one who's providing the details about the murder, and he says that particular murder was solicited by Puffy Combs.
Oh, all right. So it's from the people involved here, we know Suge Knight put somebody up to killing Biggie, and Diddy put somebody up to killing Tupac?
That's the story, yep.
Does Sean Combs does he deny that to this day? Has he admitted that he was involved at all?
No, he has not. He has declared that it's pure fiction, but that's to be expected. He's said that about most of the criminal malfeasances.
What do you, as a law enforcement officer, as a detective like that, what do you guys think of hip-hop as an industry? Do these people... from the outside, we know they kind of get involved with stuff. You've got T.I. and his guns and his, Lil Wayne going to jail and all these people in trouble, but they try to make it seem like, it was just wrong place, wrong time, or it was somebody that was with them. Do you think that it's just a huge, huge crime syndicate? Do you think, how do you view hip-hop?
Well, you've got to understand that music rises out of an urban and street culture, and those urban and street cultures, that type of activity is kind of commonplace. So it's really not surprising that activity takes place within that genre of music, because that's what the genre of music is about. Mm-hmm. And not specifically hip-hop, but this particular genre of rap and gangster rap.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. Did you ever get to... did you speak to any of these hip-hop people yourself?
I spoke to a lot of people. There was, in the two investigations, well over 750 witnesses interviewed.
Did you speak to Diddy at any point?
Diddy, we attempted to. The LAPD made an effort to speak with him. He wouldn't talk to the homicide investigators.
He won't talk to me either, Greg. We're in the same boat.
Yeah, he insulates himself quite well, and didn't want to have to deal with the type of questions that would be coming up.
How would you do that? Do you just get a phone number from some sort of big magical police computer and just call up and say, hi, is Mr. Suge Knight available?
There are ways, certainly.
And then do you call him Suge Knight, or do you have his name like Watson Jefferson III?
If I was to speak to him, I'd probably just call him Suge, but of course his name's Marion.
Ah, Marion. You knew it. Right on. I like that you call him Suge, though, that you kind of you're cool. You can't be a homicide detective without being able to call a dude Suge. Were you one of those cool detectives that got to dress badass with your badge around your neck, or were you were you pretty professional?
No, I was probably a little bit more laid back. I'm kind of a jeans and t-shirt kind of guy, and most of the time didn't even carry a gun.
Whoa, that's a little crazy. What would you do? What if you got in a conflict with somebody? You just had to pull out like a nightstick that you had in your back pocket?
Well, as a detective, you're kind of coming into things after the case. You're not on the streets there with the kind of type of potential that the cops are doing.
But to get a lady, doesn't it help if you have a gun? Like, here's my badge, and you pull out a gun, fire off a few warning shots, and then take her home?
Yeah, chicks dig that.
I can imagine. What are the proceeds from this book? What are you doing with those, Greg?
We're going to donate them to a foundation called Wounded Warrior Project.
Very cool. That's awesome. Why did you just make so much money as a detective you don't need any cash, or why donate the money to charity? That's not a common thing.
Because I don't want there to be a perception out there that I'm doing this for money. I want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm doing it just because it's the right thing to do, and if I were to take money, it would corrupt that motive. Yeah,
that kind of makes sense, because I'm sure a lot of people think, he's just making it up, and, he's trying to sell books, but if you're donating the money to charity, then obviously, it's not for the money. That's a cool way to handle that. Is there no sort of, confidentiality? Can any officer, when they retire, write about the cases and stuff that they learned while they were on the force?
Yeah, you certainly can. You can tell the stories as you know them. I keep copies of my own investigative material, and that's what the book is based on. You obviously can't keep evidence and that type of stuff that is property of the police department or otherwise. But yeah, you can And that's how these books get written.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like an awesome book. People are texting in, had no idea they were still being investigated. Somebody said, why, if they know who did it, are these people not in jail?
Well, we're working towards that, and I'm hoping that there will be at least criminal indictments or some type of civil actions. I mean, the friends and families of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls deserve that. They deserve the best from law enforcement, and they haven't always gotten that. So it's time for us to make up for that.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like a great book, and if you're interested in Tupac, Biggie, or just a good story about some deception and homicide and investigation, if you like CSI, any of those shows, interesting read. The book is called Murder Rap by former LAPD Detective Greg Kading. Greg, thanks so much for being on the show, and it's a cool thing you're doing, man, so thanks for doing it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, see you, Greg.
Bye.
The Big J Show. Weekday mornings from 6 till 10 on Billings' #1 hit music station, Hot 101.9.